Yay, Sam. I'm so happy to chat to you.
Hi.
Hi, I'm trying to get organized with like in which order I press go live, record, and then edit this video that'll then become a podcast. So thanks for being here for the whole technical setup.
Of course.
But so let's maybe just dive right in. We were just chatting a little bit before. What I'd love to do, maybe you can just introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your business, where you're based, and then I'd love to give the background story of how we met and how we've become friends over the course of this year during COVID and over Zoom, really. Like this is a Zoom friendship.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, sure.
It.
So my name is Samantha. I am a launch copywriter and content strategist. I started in my business full-time last summer. So July 2019, which feels like 100 years ago now.
Yeah.
And I got the idea to start my business when I moved to Kampala, Uganda from Washington, D.C., which is where I'm originally from. And I had been kind of struggling to like find my footing. I moved here with my husband for his work, and I was like trying out different things. And I was like, honestly, all I really want to do is write. And it just kind of became this long journey of, well, what writing can I do? Should it be journalism? Should it be marketing? And then it just kind of wove into this beautiful experience. And I'm honestly so grateful that I had the chance to like start my business. And I've come such a long way this year. And I feel like in some ways I have COVID to thank, because like there are just distractions that, aren't bad things, but they're just things that take you away from your focus and time that you would have otherwise been spending. So I feel like this whole year has been almost an accelerator for my business. Yeah, that was a tangent, but yeah, that's who I am and what I do.
That's so great. And I think this is the thing with COVID also, like this year I was planning on being nomadic and traveling. So I wanted to be building a community and meeting people. And when COVID started, I was like, oh, that's like a big part of my goal for this year. That felt like it just disappeared. But pretty quickly, within like I think it was literally within the first few days of lockdown, I realized, oh, I can connect with people online and I can start building my community that way. And so I'm pretty sure, I should have checked this before we joined, but I think you found me on Instagram, and then I like started my business in January. So I'm pretty new to building my community there. So I checked out your profile and I was like, oh, you've lived in London and you're in Uganda. And I was like, this person looks so cool. So we started chatting. Yeah. And since then, and then at the same time, I met another group of nomads who were hosting a co-working call, and I invited you to join. And literally that was like one of the highlights of my lockdown when you joined our co-working call. And I was like, oh, we have this online community, which is just like the best feeling.
And I feel like, so for me, it was like, even though I started my business last summer, I didn't start really marketing myself, especially like not on Instagram, until December. So, I'm only coming up on my first full year of like really connecting with people, building that community. And I think meeting you is like a big thing for me, because I think for a long time, when you start entrepreneurship, or at least for me, it was like, I knew that I wanted to do my own thing. I didn't want to I knew I wanted to serve my clients, but I didn't want to follow anyone's rules or have to be on anybody's schedule but mine. And it almost makes you shut away. You're like, this is my thing, and I don't need to connect with anybody except the people who are working with me. And meeting you and doing that co-working call, it was such an important transition of no, you can't do entrepreneurship alone. And it's not even fun to do it alone. And it's kind of building that community as friends, and also just as being able to share your experience and benefit from other people's experience too.
Totally, yeah, having that support structure, because I was in a corporate job before this, so I had colleagues and teams, and it was a really big company. So being on my own, at first I loved it, and I'm like, oh, no meetings, except for client meetings, and no drama. But then I was like, oh, but I miss that, just that informal conversation and having people to just share an idea with. So it's been really special to build that community that completely just, we're all doing our own things. We're not working together, but we get to come together and share. And I'd love to know a little bit more also around people that you've worked with. So are you still a solopreneur, or do you work with other people at the moment? Is anyone else helping you run your business?
No. And I think that's a big goal of mine for next year. I would love to bring on a VA.
Yeah.
But like, and I empathize with this because, you know, as a copywriter, people have to trust that I can like, you know, adapt their brand voice and understand their messaging. And, you know, it's a lot to hand over to somebody. And I like honor that and respect that. And I feel the same about like looking for a VA. It's like, are you going to do kind of the level of quality that I would do? And yeah, it's just a big thing to hand over. So yeah, right now it's just me.
Amazing. But I know you've got support in the past from working with coaches and in programs and things like that. So maybe tell me a little bit around your journey of getting started, but then the first time you figured out what support you needed and how that support's helped you build your business.
Yes. Okay. That's true. That's a good point. I was not thinking in that way, but yeah,
no, it's good to see both angles. So your answer was perfect.
But in terms of coaching, it's interesting. So like I said, when I started last summer, I didn't invest in any kind of support in terms of coaching or mentorship. And, you know, I actually lost all of my clients over the last holiday period. They were just like, we're not going to be continuing either with what we're doing or with you into January. That was a huge hit for me. And then when COVID happened in March, I had all the clients I had gained in the new year. I'd also lost them again because of that like initial shock. And at that point I really hit like rock bottom. And I was like, oh my God, like it's interesting because I feel like, at least for me, like entrepreneurship, it's almost a race against yourself, and how like, I know that, you know, it could take me 5 years to build this business alone, but it's like, can I emotionally sustain the like stress and uncertainty of a like wobbly business for 5 years? Like, it's more of a race against your mindset. I feel like it's not necessarily a race to like success. It's just a race of like feeling like stable and that you're growing. And so I actually made, I know some people always are like, oh, like, you know, maybe you start with a low ticket investment. I went straight into like a high ticket, like somebody help me investment. Nice. And that was to help design my like signature service. And even though I no longer offer that service, it really helped me clarify like, who am I? Who do I want to be? Who do I want to serve? And from there, it was just like a snowball effect of like, well, maybe if I picked up this course and this mentorship. And honestly, like the amount of growth I experienced by deciding like investing is such a great way to get support and also be accountable to your goals and also meet your goals in a structured way. I think that's the other thing, is like everyone knows where they want to be, but in terms of getting there, it's just like there's a fog. So yeah, lots of support in that way.
That's amazing. And I love what you said around that like mindset, because you're so right that it is that you've got to be thinking big picture, you've got to do the tasks. It's like, it is a huge emotional and energetic investment. And sometimes it's almost just that like investing in yourself helps enforce that commitment to your business and helps like your mindset. You're like, okay, I'm investing, I'm spending money on this. I'm genuinely going to do this. Because it's kind of, it can be easy to sit back and be like, well, I know there's all these things to do, but where do I start? So like that actual financial investment can help with your mindset a lot.
For sure. And I think like, again, it's like, even if the like money aside, the act of sitting down and planning how you're going to get from A to B without really knowing if it's going to work, because you're making up your own process, which is, you know, fine. And there's a time and place for that. But even making like energetic space to like say, okay, here's how I'm going to reach my goals, and not even knowing for sure if that's like the best way or most efficient way. Or, you know, I've been through that process alone, and it on the other side, I didn't actually even get to where I had hoped to be. So I feel like obviously no coaching or done for you service is a shortcut, but it is it's definitely a good path to take if you're like, okay, I need to get from A to B. Like, how should I get there?
Absolutely. That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I'd love to know a bit about your new service. So we worked together. I was like signed up for the previous service, which made a huge difference in my business. You like helped me get set up with my blogs and building my audience, and my email list is growing. And I loved working with you for so many reasons. Like, you Well, actually, I get education through just your Instagram posts. Like the way you share information and your teaching is so brilliant. So I really recommend everyone check you out on Instagram.
Thank you.
Sure. And then working with you, it was like both an education and I got these amazing products at the end of it. So I saw your process of how you write your emails, how you write your blogs, the research that goes into it. So that was like super helpful. And then I was hand delivered these amazing blogs that I'm like obsessed with that are up on my website. So I loved that package that you offered, but now you've pivoted and I actually don't know that much about your new offer. So could you tell us a little bit about what was the reason for that pivot and that change, and why you went from one offer to the next offer, and just about that, your own like business transition?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think before my service was all about blogs and emails. And for me, it was like, before you go on to launch anything, you need to have that kind of community building aspect. But I think as I went on, I was like, community building is it's a very personal thing, how you want to show up, when you want to show up, in which way. And I think I had this like copywriting side, but then I also had this like content strategy side of things. And I was like kind of thinking about, I really like the kind of higher level, more like ideas side of things. And I think that launch copywriting requires both of those. You need to have the copywriting expertise to know how to kind of deliver your message in a way that actually resonates with your audience and inspires them to take action. But from the strategy side, it's like, helping people like craft that message. Because I think people, it's really easy to jump on and talk about what you do and how you do it and why you love it. But in terms of like, how do we make sure it actually resonates? And there's a clear connection between who you serve and what you do and the like final transformation. I just love like blending all of that. So that's basically what my new offer is. It's called Launch Copy Magic, and I help entrepreneurs create their launch copy, as in their sales pages, email sequences, and social media posts. And you can pick and choose whichever one like you need. So it's kind of a like choose your own adventure launch package. And I'm also there to help. Like I was saying, if you're like, I know what my offer is, like I'm selling a course, I can help you figure out like in what way to communicate that like over the course of a few weeks to your audience.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I could talk about it all day.
It's so great. And I love that combination of the strategy side of things, which you're so great at, and the storytelling side. Yeah. And launching, I just feel like is the best concept in general, because it brings together all these different threads of like getting super clear on your audience, getting clear on what your product is, getting clear on your message. Like it's just the best way of delivering your offer. And the thing that comes to mind for me, I wonder, is when launch in my mind relates to like a minimum viable product in a way. It's like, how do you have this little neatly packaged thing that you can get out to your audience and get sales and then maybe grow and build? But I'm just wondering if you use that minimum viable product approach in your business, or do you see it with your clients that you're working with?
So for sure, I think it's more of a, for me, it's more of a hindsight is 2020. Like for me, now that I look back on it, I'm like, blogs were my MVP. It was like, blogs were like, okay, I know how to deliver this. I know people need it. And it was a way for me to kind of trial out just like what working with different clients is like without too much of a commitment on my part, because, yeah. And then I think for clients, I definitely see it when people are launching like beta products and they're like, okay, like, I don't know if like this course is going to work. So I'm going to do an MVP of like what maybe the first 2 modules would be and see if people are like, yes, more. Yes. And then they can decide. So yeah, I've definitely like seen it both ways.
That's great. And yeah, that's so great with your product also, because I think it's also like the best way to learn from your audience is to actually work with them and deliver some kind of product. So if those blogs were your entry point, but as you saw their businesses and you got to learn more about them, you probably could see more gaps and more problems that you could support them with. And then it's a deeper offer. So yeah, that's such a great place to start.
For sure. Like I think that's what I love about launching. It's like, I absolutely love learning about other people's businesses, how they're set up, what they're trying to accomplish. And it's like you said, a launch requires so much to come together. And even though I'm primarily helping with the copywriting side of things, I still need to dig into all your other efforts, all your goals and like ambitions, and like wrap those into it as well. And I love it.
It's so great. So it would be great to know a bit about your ambitions and your goals. So it's with your business, I ran that challenge recently on your vision of success, which you participated in, so that was great. And I wonder, for your business, do you have a vision of success? And you can answer it in two ways, because often, like as a copywriter, you probably know how to answer this from your client's perspective. You're like, all the value you can deliver for them, which is great. Yeah. But I'd love to know a little bit about your personal ambitions and goals for your business, and maybe more around like, what your aspirations are for it.
Yeah, it's such a big question. And I feel like, especially this year, like I was saying in the beginning, like I've come so much farther than I kind of ever expected in 1 year. And so that vision is always shifting, but it's more of a it's like more of unearthing like what my true vision is if I didn't have like limiting beliefs. I think which like as you continue to like succeed and to grow and to get that like feeling of like, yes, this is happening, like your vision starts to change because you start to believe that like more is possible. So yeah, that was like a lot, but
it's beautiful. Like, I love it.
I think that you know, and it's also kind of what you were saying earlier, like this year I had also hoped to kind of like travel around and like work from different places, and of course like COVID has made me like reassess like how important like all of that is in my life. But I do think that like my goals are definitely to continue to grow my copywriting business, to travel more, and also I think to kind of bring in other elements of who I am to the work that I do, because I love personal development, I love self-reflection, I love art, I love to draw, and it's kind of this interesting balance of like trying to like pull things in without making it like so. For me, there's always this concern of like I've already monetized my biggest love and my biggest like skill and talent, and it's like I don't want to like over commercialize all of the things I enjoy. This is like a capitalist perspective, but it's like at some point you have to draw the line between like what do you keep for yourself almost. But I think just definitely like this year I poured so much into my business. I think next year is really all about creating more space to do the things outside of my business that allow me to be as good in my business as I am, allowing that space for creativity.
So beautiful. And this is the conversation I like to have around this new definition of success, because a lot of our beliefs have been like conditioned by this capitalist approach, which is often like scaling and growing and like being hyper productive. And I think when we're creating our own businesses, we get to define what we want our lifestyles to look like. And it's sometimes a question of, is it the scaling approach? Like, do you want to get your business to grow, or is it around like having enough business to support a lifestyle? So I wonder for you, do you have like, would you love to have like an agency one day or work with more people, or do you want to stay a solopreneur? Like, do you have an idea of what growth looks like for your business?
Yeah. And I think one of the most meaningful social media posts I read this year was by you.
Oh, wow.
And it was that post you said like, some people are trying to grow like massive farms, and I'm just trying to grow an organic garden. Like, I just want to tend to my little corner, serve my people, and I'm good with that. And so for me, I don't think I want an agency, because for me, like, it's all about the love of words. It's all about like being able to sit down and craft that for people, because I kind of see, in terms of like the farm metaphor, like I see myself as an artisan for words. Like, I only make a few things a year. That's like my goal, only to make a few things a year and make them like very well and have them speak for themselves. I do hope to find ways to like impact and connect with more people, but not necessarily write for more people.
Beautiful. I love that. An artisan with your words. It's just so beautiful. And it's so true with your work. Like, you can see the care and the thought that goes into everything you do. and even the content that you share online or your training videos. I always actually recently I've been wondering how you sustain that amount of engagement on Instagram, because it's such quality and it's so consistent. So do you have any tips of how you manage to show up online?
Yeah, so I learned this concept from, I can't remember where, one of the like content marketing like courses I took. And it's called content stacking. So I think this is particularly effective with Instagram stories, because as you know, if you post a bunch in the morning and somebody watches all of it, that's kind of it. But if you kind of post throughout the day, you kind of always have that like red circle of like, there's more to watch. And it's kind of just like remembering to post like morning, afternoon, evening. And it's funny because I honestly like, yes, I do like mini trainings and like I do new content, but a lot of what I do is really the same stuff. So like one thing that I do is like, I literally walk from I'm pointing to my kitchen counter. I walk from my kitchen counter to my desk and I film it. And it's so funny because people are always like, good morning, or like, hey, happy commute. And like, and I love having that like connection. And it's so simple. I'm not doing anything I'm not already doing. I'm already walking to my desk. But it's just, I think it's kind of like what we were saying about your community and just like finding ways to touch points with them. And I really think that quality content comes from having that close engagement with your community, because if you know what's going on with them, you never run out of ideas, because you're just like, hey, what's going on with you? Oh, I'm struggling with my launch, or oh, like, today I'm like wondering what to post. And I'm like, okay. So then I just go on stories and that's what I talk about. So it's all about, I think like having great or consistent content comes down to consistently being in touch with your community.
That's so great. I love that. And it makes it more energizing. It's like, oh, because I always feel excited to show up when I'm like, actually have that person in mind that I'm talking to, or someone's asked me a question. And I'm like, yes, I can, because I know that what I'm sharing is of value. So it's like that energizes me and motivates me. So that's a great tip, to actually be just responding to your community.
And I think, some people say it as like a marketing tactic of like, oh, people have been asking me. And it's like, no, genuinely people have been asking me. And then there's like in copywriting, there's this rule called like the rule of one. It's like, you're always meant to talk to one person. And that really helps me do that, because I feel like, oh, I'm just getting on here to answer Leigh's question and other people can watch, but like, it's really for her. And that's how I just feel like, okay, I'm keeping this going.
That's so great. Yeah. So it's so personal, it's real, but it's also that like, quality connected content that you're creating. I wonder if you also you've spoken a bit about what you've learned, but if you were starting again, do you have any tips for what you tell yourself at the beginning of your journey?
This is a big one. It's kind of funny because like we're just talking, but I know this is going to be on Facebook later. So.
Only if you feel comfortable sharing.
No, I do. Group. No, you're right. No, true. But like, a big one for me was realizing like I actually wanted to do launch copywriting a lot earlier, but I had a lot of imposter syndrome around it. I was like, I can write, but like, can I write launch copy? Like, I don't know. And there was even a while where I kind of like resented like people who did it. I was like, how do you know that you're good enough to do it? And like, it was all just coming from this place of like scarcity and imposter syndrome. And I think, I don't know if I would, but I would be curious to know what my journey would have looked like if I had invested in mindset and clarity earlier. Because I think for me, I was so focused on sales and marketing and content. And by getting all of that mentorship, eventually I got to the point where, okay, my work is good enough, I can offer this. But I kind of do wonder, like, what would have happened if I had invested in that kind of like entrepreneurship, like mindset and clarity earlier. Yeah.
It's so fascinating, isn't it? It's like, which comes first? Is it the experience or is it the mindset? Like, yeah, that's tricky. So. And also with you and your corporate job, because I love the post that you share, and we have a similar background of being like in those corporate jobs and then making the leap into entrepreneurship. Yeah. But would you have left earlier, or do you feel like you left at the right time?
I feel like I left at the right time. I know it's tricky. And, I think it's funny because I think the way I tell my story, I often forget that I actually quit my corporate job before we knew about this move, because I had been planning to quit anyway. And I was honestly going to try to freelance, and I was going to volunteer at the zoo and the like National Aquarium. That was my plan. And as I was getting through all the paperwork for that, we found out. So I think I left at the right time, but yeah, I think I did.
Yeah, because I think there's definitely like, there's the experience to be gained. I so often refer back to my experience of being in a corporate office, and I'm like, well, if I was able to do things there, I can do them here. Like the one is emails. Like literally, that was a huge insight for me. And it was when I was working with you and sending more emails to my audience. And I was like, I used to write emails multiple, like that was majority of my job was emailing people. And to me, I'm like, wait, I've got my own business and I'm sending one a week. Like, what is going on here? So it's like, I think that foundation can be super valuable. And although it's got its challenges, there's so many benefits to it and there's so much learning to be had. So yeah, I think, and I do also believe that you leave at the time that is right, because I stayed an extra 3 years since the time I first considered leaving. But I'm really grateful for those extra 3 years. Like the extra foundations that they laid was super helpful.
Yeah, for sure. And I think any experience can give you like problem solving skills and things, but I just think that it's almost like having a corporate job, it puts all of these constraints on you. Like you have to work with this team and you have to get things done in this way. And once you get really good at that, it's like, okay, what would it look like if you decided? And for me, like, I know that a big reason that I left is because I felt like my potential was being underutilized. People were always either like overlooking my ideas or taking credit for my ideas. And it was like, what would it look like if all of this, like I was putting in so much thought and energy and creativity and like love into the work that I did. I was like, what would happen if I put that into myself? Like I would like, and then, you're always motivated because everything comes back to you. People know that, oh, when I work with Samantha, like they know that it's not like the credit goes to like my boss or a team member who like didn't even do anything. Like it all comes back. And I think that's something that I love about entrepreneurship is so much is like, that when you're working with me, like you get all of me and it's all attributable to me. So
totally. That's so great. Yeah, I think that was also for me, I realized there was so much energy going into just the scale of things, just that amount of communications and connecting with people and working with different people. I was like, which is, there's just so much more you can do if you purely focused on delivering a job. Like that was, and I felt that like, as I was getting promoted, I was getting further and further away from actual work that I enjoyed. It's like, what if I just did the work I love? Like this would, And on that personal growth side of things, we were chatting just before we started recording that you were hoping to take some time off in December, which is also cool. Like I love that can be part of your definition of success, is creating a month that you can just take off and invest in yourself. So what does this like investing in yourself look like? You mentioned there were some books you wanted to read and courses. Like what's coming up for you?
Yeah, I just, I think, maybe when COVID isn't so bad, like I would love to take this month maybe like halfway through the year and like use that as like a reset. I think this year, December just works out really nicely, but definitely I feel like I told myself last December, like, oh, we're going to plan out your year. You're going to plan out like what you're going to talk about in which months. And, it's not necessarily about following it, but it's about just like giving it some thought and intention, because I think this year my business has been like full speed ahead. Like I barely like everything's like whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Everything's happening so fast. And I think I really want to be more intentional about everything next year. And I feel like I said, because there's so much going on, and I just need that space to like read and reflect and plan. So that's like my goal. I'm just really excited to like drink coffee and journal and read my books and just
so good.
Take a moment.
Totally. Yeah. So what's the first book you're going to read? Do you know?
Yeah, there's two. There's three actually. There's it's called Story Brand.
Okay.
I think his name is David Miller, and that's all about learning how to tell your brand story in a way that resonates with your audience. So very, very related to launch copy.
Nice.
The other one is called, it's like a millionaire's, it's called Launch. Okay, I can't remember the full title. And it's by Jeff Walker. He's one of the first people he honestly is one of the main people to put a system on what it's like to launch online.
Nice.
So if anybody's launching anything and you're like, where do I even start? I would highly recommend reading his book. And finally, there's an account on Instagram called Slashed It. Her name's Unsa, and she has this really massive marketing book, and people swear by it. It's like 400 pages.
Wow.
So it's an ebook, but I got it printed so I can read it. And yeah, I'm really excited to read that one.
How cool is that? What, you actually had it printed locally?
Yeah, so this is the funny thing about Uganda is like, there are bookstores, but they only have what they have. And like, if you try to like order a book, it can take 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
So what I've started to do is buy the ebook and then go to a print shop and get it printed.
That is so smart.
I know.
I love that. Yeah, because it's similar in South Africa. Like there's limits. It's easy to get books here, but those ebooks are trickier. If it's like a smaller thing in the UK, you might have been able to get it, but here I struggle. So that's really clever.
Oh yeah, it's funny. Like they look so silly because they're like on bigger, like they're on like normal size pages instead of like a book. But you know, I really prefer when I'm reading to have printed. So that's what I wanted to do.
Amazing. Well, I can't wait to see what you are. You still going to be showing up on Instagram during your month off, or are you taking a complete break?
I think I will be probably more, just to be like, this is what's going on. And like, I just feel like when I'm not coming from a place of like, I have to be on there to like market my services, like there's like that pressure. And I feel like when I just want to come on and talk, it's just a lot like more flowy and like fun. And that's something I'm working on as well. It's like trying to like strike that balance of like, right now I do a lot of educational training and like tips and tricks, but like I really want to move into the space of like, let's just connect and like, let me just talk about things. And also I do copy.
I love that.
As opposed to the other way. Yeah,
I get to know you more. And I think what I've seen with launches for some online businesses, they like have that cycle where it's like maybe even 90 days or something of launching, and then there's a break, and then there's another launch. So they'll like launch 4 times a year or something like that. But there's that rhythm to it. So it's not like you're on all the time. And I really like that about that approach of creating launches rather than being available consistently. So
yeah, for sure. I think it's all about your business model and your goals, because I think launching is, like you said, for all the reasons, it's really great to just kind of call attention to your brand and what you're doing and how you can help. But I think depending on how you do it, it can be quite an exhausting process as well. And so, I think it's definitely, like you said, like a balance of like having cycles where you're like, you're going to be, and that maybe instead you're auditing your launch, reflecting on what could have gone differently and maybe what you might add to your next offer and so on.
Nice. So do you think you'll start running your business with like a launch cycle, or are you going to consider using that at all?
It's tricky. Like, I think this is part of a change I'd like to make for next year is I'm going to decide how many spots I offer per month. Nice. And when I run out of spots in March, then you have to book for April. And I think this is important for like my business consistency as well. Just to like, because I think I started offering launch copy maybe in September or October, not too long. But I've gotten so much interest and I've been so freaking excited to do it that I'm like, yes, everybody come on in, like, let's do it. And it's like, it's been really fun, but I think in the long run for my business, it's better if like everybody is like, okay, we only have a few spots. And like, also it's better to plan your launches ahead of time. And I think that's something that's happened is I have a lot of clients who are like trying to meet their end of year goals. And so when I started launching in October, people were like, oh my gosh, I have this thing for December, for November. And I'm trying to help everybody get everything done. So I think in the future, definitely like space that out.
Nice. And so do you work with people for roughly a month, or how long is your program with them?
I actually, the way my system works, we get on, like, I have you fill out a brand questionnaire. Then we get on a strategy call to discuss the questionnaire and also ask additional questions. From that strategy call, I get everything back to you in 10 days, 10 business days. So.
Oh, everything? Like the entire package?
Yeah, it depends on the package,
Wow.
but typically, unless you order something really massive, typically it's like 10 business days. And then we do like a few days of like revisions and polishing, but yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great cycle. And it's something that, yeah, you could definitely build in and create the space for your own life in between, which is beautiful. And what a great service to be delivering.
And yeah, I think that's the thing with copy is like, it's not like I'm slaving over it for 10 days. Honestly, I'm probably slaving over it for 5 days, but I almost need like 2 days where I'm working on it and 2 days where I don't look at it, because it's such a creative process. You need that time to like, you know, have a fresh pair of eyes and make sure like, okay, how does this sound 2 days later? And just kind of go through that cycle a few times. So honestly, I would say like, yeah, it's like 2, 4, 6, 8. And then like half of it I'm writing and half of it I'm like, you know, taking in creative like inspiration, like going through your social media, your website, like going through your audience and seeing like, what are they talking about? What would be good right now? And just like slowly kind of building it up and like layering it. Beautiful. So that's my process.
It sounds so great. And it sounds like it is such a creative process to have as your work. So yeah, it's really beautiful. Is there anything you would give advice to people who wanted to be copywriters, just getting started and starting their business? Anything you'd say to them?
I would definitely say to make a name for yourself, stand out, make your community. When I started copywriting, or when I started like my writing business, I didn't see it as a business at all. I was like, I'm a freelancer. I'm here when you need me. And like, I was perfectly happy being like faceless. I was just like, oh, just send me your work, I'll send it back. And it's so much more rewarding to like build a community around what you do. And also it makes it so much easier to connect with people you genuinely want to work with, do the work that you actually enjoy. And I think that's like, there are 6 months from like summer to December where I just like was like messing around on like Facebook groups being like, I'll help you. Like,
Right.
it's such a different energy when you're like showing up and you're like, this is what I do and I love it and I can talk about it all day. And I like, do you want tips? Do you want tricks? Like, do you want to chat? Like, it's just such a different vibe and it's so much more fun. So that's what I would recommend for somebody.
Yeah. That's so great. Yeah. And I think there's a lot that gets said around that, like treat your work like a business, not like a freelancer, which is great. But I also think the thing that's missing is that you don't realize when you have that more freelancer mentality, you think, I'll help. Well, you don't realize actually helping is telling people how you help. And like, that's where you have that business perspective. You're like, you do that work for them. You've done the thinking, you understand their business. And then you say, hey, look, this is what I've got for you. And it's actually a way bigger way of giving than just like being that faceless person who will just be like, I'll do any work that's needed. No, this is the work you need. I can see you need it. I've done that work for you. Here's my offer.
Yeah. And having a, like having a process, like, I think, you know, it's not just about, that you can do everything, but it's like, if I keep, just as me as an example, if I keep doing launch copy, then, you know, 2 months from now, if somebody's like, can you do my launch copy? It's like, I've done launch copy for 10 businesses. I know how it works. I've seen what works and what doesn't work. Like, I can bring that expertise to you. And I think when you're a freelancer, you're like, oh, well, that's so limiting. Like, what if people don't want like that particular service? And it's like, they will, because you've generated like knowledge and expertise in how to deliver it really well. So yeah, it's a big difference.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's so great. And I think it also goes back to that idea of like, okay, start somewhere, create that experience, build those connections with people, understand their business. So start any way you can. Like for you, if that was blog writing, like wherever your entry point is, but then as you like understand your clients more in depth, you can really become this like expertise. So amazing.
Yeah, for sure.
I love chatting to you. It's so much fun. And it's been so nice reconnecting, because I think as things have opened, it's like we're having less and less of our Zoom calls. So
I know.
it's great to catch up.
I need more Leigh in my life.
I need more Sam. I know. I just started a podcast so we can chat.
That's true.
This is great. And I need to actually listen to your other podcast because you were interviewed by Jonathan, who's also in our group.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was really nice to do that with him. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fun. Yeah, I need to definitely. Have you been on quite a few podcasts, or how's that going for you?
I've been on one other. It's not published yet, but it's definitely a medium that I didn't think I would like, but I actually love it. So hoping to do more of those. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And actually, I remember seeing that in your what was the first offer that you had that I signed up for?
Content Reimagined.
Content Reimagined. And one of those things were like, you have great content so you can be featured on podcasts. And I was like, oh, wow, she knows me better than I know myself, because I hadn't even considered like being a podcast guest as a goal. And suddenly I was like, yeah, this is a really nice thing to aspire to.
For sure.
Yeah, it's great. Well, yeah, that's amazing. Is there anything else you want to share? Add any other like thoughts that have come up since we've been chatting that I haven't covered?
I don't think so. I think I rambled
Spared
quite a bit.
No,
yeah, I said it all.
I love it.
Yeah, but it was really nice. Thank you so much for having me. And it's, yes, always a pleasure to chat.
Oh, it's been so much fun. Thank you for giving me your morning. It was nice to reconnect. And we will chat again soon. So what's happening next is this is live on our Facebook group, and then it'll be on YouTube. And then at some point I will be launching my podcast. So I probably will need your services for when I decide on the actual launch, but I'll get in touch with you in advance.
I'm here.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, thanks so much. Have a great day, and we'll chat again soon.
Okay. Thanks so much, Leigh. Bye.
Bye.